else to where? Miss Etta's Academic Corner. Yay! And today we have with us Judah Sr. and Judah Jr. Welcome, guys. We're going to read a book. We're going to read a book. We're going to read a book. Yes, we are. You guys have a seat right there. Take the load off your paws. So today's book, boys and girls, is Curious George Visits a Toy Store. And this is a book by Margaret and H.A. Rays. Tell you the truth, Curious George has been around a long time. Even when I was a little kid, I used to read Curious George books. So that just shows you Curious George has been around a long time. And people love to read it and hear about Curious George. So I hope you had a great time in school. I don't know if you're in virtual or are you in brick and mortar. Remember, brick and mortar is in the building. Wherever you go to school, I hope you had a great day. Remember, always keep your parents posted and let them know how school is going. So this book is called Curious George Visits a Toy Store. So this is a softback book, right? And like a lot of Curious George books, not all, but a lot, we have a yellow book. What colors do we see? We see the usual red, brown, black. We see red. We see in this book blue, white, some green. And we see some toys down here. And we see Curious George, right? So, do you think he's going to have an adventure in a toy store? Take a guess. Yes or no? This is illustrated in the style of H.A. Ray by Martha Weston. And remember, the illustrator is who? Can't hear you. That's right, the person that draws the pictures, right? And the author is the one that writes the story or stories. So, this is George, and we know who George is. He was a good little monkey, and he always was very curious. Today was the opening of a brand new toy store. Have you ever went to a toy store when it was first opened up? George and the man with the yellow hat did not want to be late. So they're in their car, making it over to that toy store. Look at that line on that toy store. Everybody wants to go to that new toy store. They got balloons out there. Grand opening. Grand opening means this is the beginning. When they arrived, the line to go inside wound all the way around the corner. That's a long line. When a line is this long, it's not easy for a little monkey to be patient. It's not easy for anybody to be patient. George sneaked through the crowd. All he wanted was a peek inside. So he wanted to look to see what was happening. I want to see what's going on inside. I know sometimes it's hard to be patient, but we have to practice being patient, boys and girls. Not only little children, but adults too. George got to the door just as the owner opened it. This is no place for a monkey. That's what she said. But George was so excited, he was already inside. Balls, dolls, bicycles, and games filled the shelves. And they were stacked up high, all kinds of toys. There were so many toys. George didn't even know how some of them worked. And how about those hoops? You know those hula hoops? What did they do? George was curious. He climbed up to pull one out of the pile. It would not move. George pulled harder. Still it wouldn't move. George pulled with all fours. What do you think is going to happen? All that pulling. What do you think is going to happen, boys and girls? Take a guess. Suddenly, there was a terrible crash. Red, blue, green, and yellow hoops bounced up and down and everywhere. Look, exclaimed a boy, bouncing up and down himself. Why, I haven't seen one of these in years, said the boy's grandmother. I haven't seen a hula hoop in years either. I was not successful at that. You got to move your hips in a certain way. She put a hoop around her waist and gave it a spin. George tried the hula hoop too. Then George pretended to be a wheel. He rolled and rolled and rolled. See what George did? He took that hula hoop and turned that baby into a wheel. Oops, he rolled right into the owner. Uh-oh. The owner shook her head. I knew you were trouble, she said. Now you've made a mess of my new store. Again, she tried to stop George. And again, George was too quick. Look at that. George took off. You ever had it when your parents try to catch you and y'all take off? Y'all have seen that. Y'all think it's funny, right? In only a second, he was around the corner and on the highest shelf. Below him, George saw a little girl point to a toy out of reach. Mommy, can I get the dinosaur? She asked. George picked up this dinosaur and lowered it to the girl. She was delighted. So was the small boy next to her. Could you get the ball for me, please? He asked George. George reached up and grabbed the ball and bounced it to the boy. So remember I said that the toy store, that the toys were on shelves? So with George being up on the top shelf, it helped for kids, the little kids below, to get the toys they were interested in. At least the owner didn't have to climb up and do it, right? May I have that puppet way over there? Asked another girl. How lucky that George was a monkey. He swung off the shelf, hung onto a light, picked up the puppet, and put it right in her hands. So you can imagine everybody's going to be happy because they can get the toys at the top of the shelf. Pretty quickly, too. What a show, shouted a boy. The children held up their new toys and cheered. What a commotion. Immediately, the owner came running. And then came the man with the yellow hat. I think we had enough monkey business for one day, the owner frowned. So the kids are having fun, right? The owner's the one that's upset. But the kids are having fun, and they're in the toy store. Just then a girl got in the long line to pay, and she said, what a great store. What a great idea to have a little monkey helping you, her father told the owner. I guess you're right, the owner replied and smiled. Then she gave George a special surprise. Thank you, George, she said. My grand opening is a success because of you. Perhaps monkey business is the best business after all. So after she got these compliments, the owner changed her mind about George being in the store. Sometimes we have to wait and see how things work out. And when he opened it, he had a toy box. We have to wait sometimes to see how things turn out before we judge it. So don't be in such a hurry to judge things. Wait it out and see how it's going to work out. At the end of this book, we have two games. One, we have a word search. These are the words down here. And you have to find the words. Ball, dinosaur, bicycle, doll, boat, hula hoop, and puppet, which are words that were in the book. Then in the back, we have a toy store maze. Start here with Curious George, and we have to get to him to finish. So if you ever get this book, you have two games in it that you can play. Thanks, boys and girls. See you next week.